There is a long-standing and ongoing conflict between the Dominican Republic, the DR, and Haiti, which is currently being expressed by the racial, economic, and immigration issues involving the DR and Haiti today. The roots of these issues lie in the two countries' histories, including both countries' demand for cheap labor, as well as the occupations of the DR, the Parsley Massacre of 1937, and both legal and unauthorized immigration since the early 1900s. The Dominican Republic and Haiti are two very separate countries today, at least in the eyes of Dominicans, lying on one landmass in the heart of the Caribbean on the island called Hispaniola. The Spanish originally colonized Hispaniola over 5 centuries ago, and in the first 50 years the indigenous population was decimated. With no workforce, the Spanish imported African slaves. In the 1700s, Haiti was the wealthiest colony in the Americas because of their slave-based economy. Astonishingly, in 1804, the slaves of Haiti rose up and revolted, resulting in their becoming the first black nation in the hemisphere. This led to great pride among Haitians, as well as a drive to abolish slavery in their neighboring land, the Dominican Republic. In 1821, Haitians invaded the DR, aiming to abolish slavery and unify the whole island. For the next 22 years following the invasion, Haiti occupied the DR, a time during which the Spanish language and culture was banned and land was taken from Dominicans. In a series of events that mirrored history, it was Dominicans this time who revolted in 1843 and gained their own independence. The 20-year Haitian occupation resulted in most likely the first inception of Dominican resentment or hatred against Haitians. 30 years later, in November 1874, the two countries' governments tried to start working together. The DR and Haiti signed their first treaty, one of peace, friendship, and trade. At the time of the treaty, Haiti was still economically dominant over the DR, even providing financial support for their neighbor. However, ongoing political, economic, and social conflict before and after the treaty persisted, and eventually Haiti would transform into the polar opposite of what it once was, becoming the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere today. With a lack of positive leadership in its early and later years as an independent country, Haiti fell victim to foreign powers who milked it of its resources, the most impactful of these resources being Haitian laborers. Beginning in the early 1900s, the Dominican Republic actually facilitated the recruitment of Haitians to work the sugar harvest. It is estimated that about 5,000 Haitian laborers were contracted each year until 1986. Consequently, whenever Haitian laborers worked in the DR, they built economic stability for the DR instead of their home country. Thus, Haiti, suffering from a lack of resources and poor leadership, topped off with a much higher population density than its neighbor, would gradually evolve into the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Thus, the Haitian people were put into an economically disadvantaged position that has made them more susceptible to inferiority, oppression, cruelty, and hate by the agency of the Dominican Republic. The U.S. government's involvement with the DR and Haiti began in the 1890s, when the U.S. Gov began work to restructure the massive foreign debt that the Dominican government had accumulated. For this assistance, the Dominican and Haitian people ended up paying a heavy price. The U.S. would actually invade and occupy the DR for 8 years, from 1916 to 1924, as well as occupying Haiti for 19 years. Once again, the DR found itself, as it had before by Haiti, occupied and oppressed. For the Dominican people, the U.S. occupation most likely amplified the existing hatred of Haitians and conjured up memories of the 20-year Haitian occupation of the DR. During this period of involvement with Hispaniola, the U.S. pushed legal reforms in the DR to maximize profit off of the country's largest export, making it so sugar growers could acquire more land for growing sugar and cutting export taxes on the crop, ultimately increasing profits for the U.S.
And what you have is a situation that for the last century in the Dominican Republic, both the government and the sugar industry has been importing Haitian labor to work in the Dominican Republic in the cutting of the sugar cane. At the beginning, in the first few decades, they will sort of come for the cutting season. They will bring in the Haitians and then bring them back to Haiti. But then later on, they just stopped doing that. They say, why are we wasting money? So they were keeping the people there, and people, you keep them there, and they do what natural people do. You know, they eat, they go to bed, they have children, they work.
The increasing Haitian presence in the DR was especially concentrated near the poorly defined and Haitianized border. However, in 1929, 5 years after the United States left the island of Hispaniola alone, the countries established an official and well-defined border. Unfortunately, by the time, the Dominican people had already developed a clear sense of difference between themselves and people of Haitian descent, no matter where they actually grew up. Dominicans felt that the increasing Haitian presence was affecting Dominican culture negatively. Between the times of occupation and the border treaty, Rafael Leonidas Trujillo rose quickly to power, and once he established himself as president of the Dominican Republic, he would rule from 1930 until his assassination in 1961. While Trujillo did at least encourage economic development during his dictatorship, the Haitian dictator essentially sold his people as cheap sugarcane cutters to the Western neighbor. The Trujillo dictatorship also fostered a national identity and institutional racism that favored whites over blacks. Trujillo deplored Haitians, and from September to October of 1937, under his order, Haitians and those of Haitian descent along the country's border were massacred by Dominican soldiers and civilians for being guilty of being Haitian. An estimated 9,000 to 20,000 Haitian women, men, and children were brutally killed by cruel methods of torture exercised by Dominican soldiers. Workers on Dominican sugar estates, most of which were owned by U.S. companies, were protected from the massacre, highlighting the tension between the economic need for a low-wage labor force and the exclusions of Haitians and their descendants from membership in the Dominican community. Thus, the massacre engraved a deeper border between the two countries. This hostile history instilled the current state of suspicion and mistrust between Haiti and the Dominican Republic and further Dominican racism towards Haitians and their characteristics.
Hispanidad in the Dominican Republic is the glorification of everything Spanish. Rafael Leonidas Trujillo proclaimed Hispanidad as official national ideology. The concept was based on an ancient Spanish idea, limpieza de sangre, purity of blood, Spanish blood.
The ideal instilled by Spanish pride among Dominicans, called Hispanidad, is being Catholic, white, and completely Spanish. However, today, very few people in the Dominican Republic can be described as Catholic, white, and completely Spanish. The Parsley Massacre and Hispanidad led to, in the Dominican mind, more hatred of Haitians, favoring whites over blacks, and a denial of color among Dominican peoples. Thus, Trujillo encouraged and kindled anti-Haitian and anti-black attitudes, fueling racial tensions in the DR that have persisted through time. With long-term political and economic turmoil in Haiti and a more diversified Dominican economy, many of the Haitians who migrated in the last 3 decades work in non-sugar agricultural sectors, tourism, construction, and domestic service. On one hand, these changes have proven incompatible with the Dominican desire for a purely seasonal, temporary Haitian presence. On the other, the Dominican economy was built on a supply of inexpensive and compliant labor, and still depends on it for continued growth.
The construction industry and the agricultural industry of the Dominican Republic is today sustained and has been sustained by Haitian labor. I mean, there's no denying that.
Rather than feeling sorry for their impoverished and oppressed neighbors and fellow Dominican-born peoples, Dominicans hate Haitians and their typical characteristics. Rather than hating Haitians because they're black, Dominicans hate black because it's Haitian. In fact, Dominicans rarely even identify themselves as black.
So I tell them, no, I'm black. No, you're not. Yes, I'm black. No, you're not. Why? No, I'm black. Look at me, I'm black. No, but you look like you're starving, you look like you're eating. You cannot be black.
The past conflicts between the two countries have contributed to the present economic, immigration, and racial situation in the DR. Dominican and Haitian relations have affected the U.S. most significantly in terms of immigration. Both the DR and U.S. are experiencing tensions as a result of mass immigration from poor neighboring countries. This has intensified, increased the frequency of, and led to discussion about citizenship and immigration policy in both countries. However, the significance of the discussed history is most important in terms of the two countries where the history took place.
There is a huge movement of people who are of Haitian descent, but nonetheless they are Dominicans. And then the discrimination takes place in all sorts of ways. Because they don't have paperwork, they cannot really travel freely throughout the country because they could be stopped at any checkpoint and be asked for paper by the military. Because of simple the color of the skin, they could be asked. And I've heard of cases in which a bus driver gets up and say, you Haitian, get out. I'm not taking you on my bus. I mean, blatant things like that. And they are in so many ways supported by the authorities because they don't have laws of anti-discriminations like they do in the United States. So there is this big movement of mostly young people who say, I am Dominican and I have rights. I mean, but their paperwork has been denied. So that's sort of been denied. So that's kind of like the situation that is happening currently in the Dominican Republic. And it's really, really tense.
Haitians have been so essential to the overall prosperity of the Dominican Republic, but are left entirely unappreciated. They have been laboring for little pay, the labor upon which the DR's much better economy was built, and yet they are treated terribly and denied recognition of their citizenship. In the DR, historical conflict and anti-Haitian feelings have translated to legal practices to deny children of Haitian immigrants in the DR citizenship. In June of 2015, the Dominican government began reporting Haitian migrants and undocumented people of Haitian descent, even if they were born in the DR.
They sort of interpreted the Constitution to say that anybody who's born of parents who are in transit dating back to 1926 is not a Dominican citizen.
This decision was made on behalf of the government under current President Danilo Medina, who took office in 2012, thus reviving racial tensions. Since June 2015, 10,000 Haitian migrants have been expelled officially, almost all claiming to have been rounded up and removed to just outside the border.
Children, we're talking about 3 to 4 generations of kids who have been born and raised in the Dominican Republic, who went to school there, who know nothing but the Dominican Republic or Dominican identity as a nationality, are now told that because their parents were in an irregular situation and they were considered to be in transit and they were not legal permanent residents or citizens, they are not Dominican citizens now. They are told that they have to go back to Haiti and get Haitian papers and become Haitian citizens.
Others left the Dominican Republic by choice as a flight to safety, rather than risk deportation or violence inflicted on their family on behalf of Dominican neighbors or locals, some of whom were threatening to kill their families, burn their homes, steal their animals, or report them to officials. Today, the Haitian refugees exist in the literal and figurative space between two nations that, along with their land, share a history steeped in hostility. With nowhere to go, some of the thousands of refugees settled on a drought-ridden strip of land by a river known as Parc Café. Families drink river water, struggle to find food, and make do without toilets or medical attention. They sleep in makeshift shelters of cardboard and sticks, composing a camp that was created many years prior to another altercation with the Dominican Republic. Despite their terrible living conditions, they live with hope and faith, presented through the dance hall converted from an abandoned tent, a church built from raw logs and palm, that fills and expels the gospel in both French and Creole, and the talk of reopening and establishing a school is present.
I would say the common lay person, and granted the level of education in the Dominican Republic is not that great, so people will feed on ignorance. And I don't think there is another nation in the world in which the sense of nationality and national identity has been so ingrained since birth. Sadly to say, the average people is racist, and they do not know it, and they see Haitians as lesser than people, less than citizens. So that is unfortunate, but the vast majority of people, I think, will have the same sentiment, which is sad when you compare that sentiment or that way of thinking with pure reality, because all of them know Haitians and deal with Haitians and employ Haitians. Perhaps the person who does security at their building, or the person who does the cleaning in the house or washes the dishes, or the person that they hire to do construction is Haitian descent. But it is that sort of like the ideology or the ideas do not match up with the actuality of it. The rhetoric is and the ignorance and the denial is so challenging to sort of dispel and to sit down with people and to try to sort of say like, no, that's just, it's very difficult.